Appreciation Week, an opportunity to recognize teachers' dedication and the impact they have on students. But is that appreciation reflected in their pay?
Study into the salaries of college-educated individuals shows that teachers continue to get screwed.
Of the position. If you look at a teacher and you say to them, we want you to be a therapist, we want you to be a social worker, we want you to be a teacher, obviously, we want you to have some safety training, and then you layer in the joys of the pandemic and learning to teach online and to teach remotely. But don't forget that we do have the joy of standardized testing that we're going to layer on top of that, and then we're going to evaluate how you're successfully navigating all of the challenges facing the world while you're teaching a kid to read.
My name is Stephanie Campanella. I've been working at Our Lady of Grace Catholic Academy for 12 years, and I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math and science, and as you can see behind me is my homeroom.
My name is Michelle Sorelli. I work at Our Lady of Grace Catholic Academy. I've been teaching, it'll be 25 years in September, and I'm an 8th grade teacher.
My name is Cynthia. I work for the Department of Education in a pre-K center. I'm a site coordinator. I've been teaching for 23 and a half years. I've taught kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade.
Hi, my name is Lauren McCaffrey. I am a junior high teacher at LJCA, and I've been teaching for about 10 years now.
Hi, my name is Donna Spagnolo. I am currently teaching 5th grade at PS 216 in Brooklyn. I have been a teacher for 20 years. I've taught every grade from 1st to 5th.
Hi, I'm Karina Benarek. I'm a Catholic school teacher. I've been working there for 2 years as a 2nd grade teacher. I have been working as a teacher in other schools for over a decade.
Teachers spend most of their life doing their job. Their contract states that they work 180 days per year and that they only get paid for that 180 days. However, most teachers greatly exceed this limit in order to do their job in the best way possible. Many of them end up working way over 250 days, leading them to protest that they should get paid for all of these days.
So I work in school from 7 to 3, and then when I get home, I have to work extra hours to prepare for the following day. So I'm going to say about a total of 12 hours a day.
I work about 7 to 8 hours a day.
My average work day, I would say, I'm in the building from 7 a.m. until 3 p.m., but I then go home. And during the week, on average, probably do 2 or 3 hours of work per day. Some days it's a lot more than that. And on the weekends, I try not to do any work on Saturday, but I do spend time answering emails on Saturday, and Sunday I'm usually consumed with work. So a good part of my Sunday is emails, grading, planning, and all of that. So I work a lot of hours.
My workday officially begins at 8 a.m. when I walk into my school building, but that is not when my day officially begins. My day can begin as early as 6 o'clock in the morning sometimes, because we are always working to be the best teacher we can be. We try our hardest to prepare the best lessons we can, to make sure we give our students the best feedback we can. We want to see them grow all the time, so we give them different kinds of assessments. We make sure that everything we do is for our students.
And so unless you love it and you're really doing it because you love it, you're going to burn out really quick.
The supremely important job of teaching deserves the best we can provide.
I don't really take a break ever, right? Like I want to do my best to ensure that every kid has the education that they deserve.
Almost every single teacher that I know has some kind of a side gig.
And that's why I spend extra time, at night, just like every other teacher does, planning for the next day to make sure I have a dynamite lesson.
We're not making a living wage.
Most of my vacations are spent working. Summer vacation, I do try to give myself a break in July, but I can tell you that probably most of August, come around the first week of August, I start up planning the year, planning all the events, the activities, lesson plans, trying to come up with new things, and getting ready for the school year. The end of August, I'm working around the clock, like every single day. Vacations, yes, I try to not work over my vacations, but that doesn't ever happen. I work all the time.
I have had to work on vacations. I've had to work on the weekends. Sometimes I work really late until 11, 12 o'clock at night because lessons need to be prepared, and it all depends on what you're working on. There are parts of the year sometimes that are way busier than others. If you're rolling out a new unit and you have to worry about creating a pacing calendar or a curriculum map, all of that work needs to be done behind the scenes. And behind the scenes is usually from home in the evenings.
I do spend some time after work and when I get home to prepare for the next day, and usually on Sundays I will prep my work for the coming week.
I have worked during the summer vacations, not just like summer vacations, but as well like when we have off from school, weekends, things like that. Even like on the days that I took personal days off, I have worked. I was busy grading, making up tests, doing lesson planning, which takes like forever.
If anyone had told me how many hours I would actually be working as a teacher, I think I seriously would have reconsidered my career, because if you actually do the math, I probably make like 6 cents an hour. If you calculate how many hours I actually work and what I get paid. I spend a lot of time grading, probably more than average because I am an ELA teacher, so I don't give as many tests that are sometimes easier to grade. I with the writing assignments and essays, they are very, very, very time consuming. But I also have a lot of experience, so I can do them fairly quickly. I find it more difficult now that I grade things online than actually with pen and paper. It takes me more time, to be honest, to grade essays and writing assignments online. But it's hours worth of work.
I put way more work and time into my job than I ever thought, and I was told that I would put into it.
When I became a teacher, I guess I never really realized how much teachers do before and after school. But now that I've been a teacher, of course, for so many years, it makes a lot of sense. There really would be no way a teacher could walk in front of students not prepared, because you always need to have something for your students to do, and that takes up a lot of time.
Because of the pandemic, teachers all around the world were forced to take a step into the unknown. For example, they had to adjust from in-school teaching to teaching with masks, virtual learning, more lesson planning, and social distancing guidelines. While the whole world was scared and concerned for the health of their families, teachers had no choice but to step up in a major way. They worked double the hours and were even there to comfort their students during those scary times. They faced many challenges and even risked their health when they came back to in-person teaching. Even now, they still go through struggles and branch into new territory every day because of Corona, yet they are still paid the same.
Since the pandemic, I've had to adjust the way I teach. I've had to learn new methods as to how to be ready to switch from in-person learning to completely virtual learning and just the flip of the switch. I've also had to adjust my teaching in the building, being that now classes are being split in two, and who's on a Zoom class and who's in a live class.
Aside from all of the hours that virtual learning consumes, it was really a difficult situation to be in. It was frustrating to feel that you were working as hard and putting in all of these hours and not really getting what you needed to get out of the kids. There was all this uncertainty. Are they getting it? Am I getting through to them? you know, competing with all of the distractions that students had around them, competing with trying to keep their attention when they had all of these other distractions around them was really, really challenging.
Ever since the pandemic, my job has changed critically. So it went from coming to school and using a notebook and occasionally using the computer to now everything being changed to the computer, where my lessons have also been altered and using the computer.
So virtual learning was definitely difficult, especially being a mom of 2 young toddlers. It was much more prep time and trying to learn how to get everything that I would do in the classroom and transfer it into this online world of teaching. However, at the same time, still being a mother and caring to my children when my husband, being a first responder, was not there to stay home and help me. So finding the balance between motherhood and being a teacher is still a huge obstacle that I face every single day.
I never worked virtual until last year. The downfalls is that you're literally alone in your room looking at a screen of these little boxes of your students, and you try to make it as normal as possible for them, but it's difficult considering you're basically in a box. The hours increased a lot because all the lessons that we had prepared in the past had to be altered so that it could be made for digital learning.
I spent all of my time on a device at one point or another during the day, during distance learning. If I wasn't on my laptop, on live with the students, I was on my laptop planning, grading, searching for websites, searching for lessons, typing lessons, creating lessons, and then if I wasn't on my laptop, I was constantly on my phone, answering emails and responding to emails, and just it was non-stop throughout the day of being on device.
With COVID, the amount of hours I'm spending teaching and planning has definitely increased. There's so much more planning going into it, so much more research that has to be done. It's not as simple as just sitting in front of a computer and just lecturing for 8 hours a day. I think there's so much more that many people don't understand that happens behind the scenes.
So all the COVID precautions, when we came back in September, the list was endless.
While teaching now, there's many precautions that I do have to take. Teaching with a mask has been difficult, but we've gotten used to it. It's also hard to sometimes hear the students if they're low speakers, if you can't really understand what they're saying. So there's a lot of, what did you say, can you repeat yourself, just because we can't hear each other sometimes through the mask. As well as just getting used to the new setting. If a class is too big, we're getting split up into 2 different rooms. So sometimes we're Zooming with one class and being live with another class. So there's a lot of flexibility that had to be really accepted to be able to be back in the building and teaching during the pandemic.
So I find myself sitting at the desk a lot, where I'm usually a teacher that likes to walk around. So that's kind of like a barrier that had to be dealt with, unfortunately. And the face masks, they're pretty uncomfortable. It's like just kind of stopping you from being who you really are.
So the downfall, of course, of being an in-person teacher is that I have to wear a mask all day long. And a mask is not only cumbersome for your own body, it makes it a little difficult to breathe, it makes it a little difficult to project, and inhale. Especially as teachers, we're speaking the entire day to our students. So to have that mask on is tough. Sometimes the students, well, I shouldn't say that. They can always hear me because I know how to project nice and loud, but it's very hard for me to hear them. When I have to hear a student respond, sometimes I have to ask them to repeat themselves like 3, 4, 5 times. The other downfall to that is that because they have to be socially distanced, we can't have group work, which I absolutely love. I feel like group work is the center of a thriving classroom. When students can sit on the same table and interact and have that interdependence and and drive their own learning, that's the best kind of stuff you see. But unfortunately this year everybody's spaced out, and I find myself, doing the old-fashioned way of chalk and talk, where I'm just leading a lesson from the smartboard and the kids are separated and they're raising their hands and I'm calling on them individually, rather than saying, turn and talk to your partner, rather than saying, what did your group find out by doing this research? It makes it more difficult, not only for the students, but for us. But of course, everyone needs to be safe during these times.
Quiroga left her house only 8 times since the start of the pandemic, doing what she could to stay safe. But her daughters believe her last outing exposed her to COVID. It was early September when Quiroga, a bilingual teacher at Funston Elementary, went to the school to meet her students before the start of e-learning.
I said, why are you going in? Why are you going to talk to and interact with everybody? And she said, because I have to. Because I have to hand out these packets and supplies for the students and their families.
Within days, Quiroga was sick with cold-like symptoms and was taken to the hospital on September 11th.
To a heartbreaking story in Pasadena, where a high school teacher has sadly lost her battle with COVID-19 this week. Melissa Gutierrez was only 45 years old, and she had no underlying conditions. Anieli Ruiz spoke to her family and students.
Students at J. Frank Dobie High School are mourning the loss of their beloved teacher, Melissa Gutierrez. But our students say she was more than just a teacher.
The New Jersey community is reeling over the loss of a beloved elementary school teacher and coach who died of coronavirus. Ben Luderer was only 30 years old. He was a special education teacher and a varsity baseball coach. He passed away in his home this week, just a few days after feeling symptoms.
This is just 3 examples of what happened to many others while teaching during COVID. No one knows or realizes how many teachers are actually dying. The special role that teachers play through their connection with children and families has ripples through each of the teachers' communities, says the New York Times. In addition, the concern among many educators about the contentious issue of in-person education has made the losses particularly painful and disruptive. This truly shows the dedication of teachers. They risk their health every day just to help their students and their families. This is not appreciated enough in this world.
So one of the concerns when we returned in September was, was for my own safety, not necessarily even so much for my own safety, but the safety of my family. I was afraid that I would, get COVID, not have any symptoms, and then bring it home to my family members, especially my older family members. So I found that I really kept my distance from my family members, especially with the holidays and things like that. I was constantly afraid of being around someone and inadvertently giving them COVID because I'm, interacting in the school building.
Yes, in the beginning, during our in September, I didn't see my dad for a couple of weeks because I was unsure if I had it. I was because the testing wasn't accurate at that time, because it was targeted teachers that were getting tested. So I didn't see him often because I was scared that I might be carrying it or that I might have it and be unaware of it.
When we came back to work after being virtual in person, I was very concerned coming back, because not only just for my own health, but for everyone's health in my household, like my parents, my husband. Everyone has some kind of underlying issues, and especially like this past year, a lot of people gained weight, so you're kind of like in that obese category. So that, presents a problem for everybody.
We all have had a teacher who made an impact on our lives beyond the 4 walls of their classroom. Teachers do so much more than just teach us about English, math, science, and history. They teach us about life. They prepare us for years after their class. They teach us more than what we need to know, and they truly care about us. While it may seem that they just teach us about wars, or what the value of X is, or even how to write correctly, they are actually teaching us so much more. They are truly there to change our lives into something much better.
Tens of thousands of students throughout the years. I mean, I couldn't even begin to estimate. 25 years almost 25 years of teaching, you know, how many could that possibly be? I have no idea, but the numbers gotta be up there.
I taught many children. I really lost count.
When you've been a teacher for 20 years, you could probably say you've taught 400, 500 kids. Sounds crazy when you think about the number.
I do form a healthy connection with my students, and I try to make them feel comfortable in their classroom. And even if they don't understand it and don't understand the material I'm teaching, I try to make them feel comfortable with that as well.
Yes, I truly care about all my students. I keep in contact with children from 18 years ago that actually turned, that are actually in college now. Even the 18-year-olds, like the kid Brian and Mayleen's mom. So I keep in contact with a lot of parents and children throughout all the years.
I feel that I have a healthy connection with my students. I still have relationships with most of my former students over the course of the past 25 years. So I think that's evidence of having healthy relationships with students if I'm still in communication with them and part of their lives. What's one of my main goals is to have good relationships with my kids.
I did help children throughout my life. My first year of teaching, I had 3 different situations happening. I had a child that had a brain tumor that I was helping her learn in 2nd grade how to read and catch up with the other children. I had a child who was molested by her father that we were not aware of, but we began to question her aggressive behavior and her anger, and as a result, it came out through help and conversations that she was being molested by her dad. And we had the child that mom passed away in October of that year due to an asthma attack. So we tried to help him, and we gave him like tools and techniques on how to write things down and how to express yourself through writing.
So teaching is often more than just teaching. It's more than just teaching academic lessons, it's teaching life lessons, but it's also helping students in every and any capacity. Over the course of the past 25 years, there probably isn't anything that I haven't encountered and helped a student through, from divorces to death of a parent, death of a grandparent or a close family member, to more personal situations in their identity and finding out who they were and the things that they wanted in life. I've helped students overcome many, many challenges, which again is part of being a teacher.
Unfortunately, I have had students who come to me who have some problems at home, and they ask for help and advice and kind of just leading them in the right direction. And we were able to find them the help that they needed, and just to get them to the path to get to the help that they needed for whatever issues they were having at home.
I've had students that had emotional issues, and throughout guidance and stuff, I was able to help them and move forward from whatever obstacle they were facing.
Some might say that the teachers get paid more than the average job and that they only work 10 months a year, but this is simply not true. What many people fail to realize is how much truly goes on behind the scenes of the job. If you search what the average pay is, you'll see that it's about $35,000 to $99,000 per year. However, if you search the average teacher pay, it is from $20,000 to $52,000 per year, although some teachers may make more. This is not a living wage. Also, over a quarter of teachers spend the summer helping out students, preparing future lessons, and much more. Many of teachers spend much more time working, and it unfortunately goes unnoticed. Teachers deserve much more than they receive. We need to pay our teachers more. They spend countless hours working, they risk their health every day, they overcome new challenges like COVID and not COVID related, and they do much more than just teaching. How are you going to see this problem and not do anything about it? If you were in their place, you would feel how they do, misused and unfairly treated. We, as a society, need to do better. We need to treat our teachers better, and we need to pay them more.